Post-worthy podcast, Paul and Rob. Big talk, big laughs, tap in, don't stop. Don't stop.
Listen, just before we get started, you're my new favorite person.
Why, Paul?
Because
Well, no,
I
start
didn't
it.
know
Start it.
anything about
Just
you
keep
until
it
Rob.
authentic. Start it.
It's already going, but so Gary Vaynerchuk used to be my favorite. You're my favorite.
Yes, I love Gary Vayner.
I do too, but like I think that you come from both worlds of the way things are done, and the way you say things, the way you do things, makes me realize that it brings Rob higher up in standards in my life because I didn't think he knew anybody as great as you.
He does it, and remember that, Rob.
You know what? You two, listen, tell you what, after this podcast, you two can go off to a remote island and get married. I'm happy to come and officiate.
Not if you wear that hat, because that's all you do.
Not if you wear that hat. Wait, can we talk about one thing? I want to talk about this because no one understands my peeve with what is with this fucking, can we say fuck or no?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay. What is with this fucking generation loving a line? They love to stand in a line. Like I was coaching a girl yesterday and she was like, I was in New York City and she goes, and I waited in line for 2 hours for a frozen yogurt. I said, why? Why the fuck would anybody wait in a line for 2 hours for a frozen yogurt? She was like, well, everybody else was. And yeah, like, I mean, so we are living in a world where you know what I mean? Like it's my first time in a studio, just kidding. We're living in a world where in my generation, you snorted a line, you never stood in a line. If you stood in a line, you were a fucking loser.
I live in Florida, so they still snort lines.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Postworthy. Marki Costello, our guest, Marki Costello. So in case you haven't figured out, Marki is the unvarnished, unfiltered truth. She is a long-term talent manager, the queen of talent management for unscripted, meaning not the stuff where you had a script, but the stuff where you didn't. So that's everything in reality, broadcast, all what is now actually the mainstream of the mainstream, the alternative, they used to call it. Marki Costello was it. She had a show called Drama Queen on E, which is watched her business because she is and was a drama queen, maybe less so now. She's coached everyone. She's built careers. She understands. Paul and Marki are just meeting. I've known Marki for decades. She managed my career for a minute. Long story. We'll talk about that on another show.
The best minute he probably ever had.
Exactly.
Well, we'll see. Whatever. Marki is a remarkable personality. She is forceful. She is honest. She's transparent. She can be a total asshole sometimes, but she pulls no punches. And Paul, I'm glad you two are meeting. This show is all about how influencers and how content creators do and create and build. Marki's been at the core of that since the beginning of reality TV and still is. And Marki, it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Rob, for all those beautiful accolades. Yeah, my show was called The Drama Queen, not because I was drama, because I helped so many people become successful, FYI. You know, I come from, my grandfather was Lou Costello of Abbott and Costello, Who's on First, What's on Second. My mother married Dean Martin's oldest son, Craig Martin. You know, my dad testified in court against Charlie Manson because his best friend was Dennis Wilson, the drummer of the Beach Boys. And my godfather was Terry Melcher, Doris Day's son. I am Hollywood through and through. I opened up a management company. I saw a niche. And when I opened up my management company, we had 20 actors, 1 host, and 2 writers. And when we would be calling to get actors in for an audition, like on Melrose Place, or they'd be like, Marki, we have 80,000 other people we're seeing. But when there was a host casting or breakdown, and I would call, they'd be like, yeah, we could see your client Thursday at 10 a.m. I was like, oh, okay, excellent. Sides, copy. And so like a year later, after opening my management company, I then had 20 hosts and experts and 2 actors and 2 writers, because I realized, you know, supply and demand. There was a demand and I could supply them with that niche that nobody, and people said, oh, you'll never survive having unscripted, you know, having experts and hosts and reality people. I survived and thrived, and E gave me my own show called The Drama Queen because I made so many people successful. But before that, I studied acting with one of the most prestigious acting teachers and learned the Meisner technique for 3 years, and then was asked to study with Sandy and some people on an island. But I did it because I wanted to learn the language of an actor. Because before I did unscripted, I was doing scripted casting for Disney back in the day where we were doing literally indies before indies were cool. And like, if you wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to read your script, you would package it all pretty in the Disney packaging, but you would basically like bribe a gardener to bring it into the front, right? Like, can you bring this into Arnold's house and pretend like a studio left it in the front, and hopefully he read it and liked it. And so when we've evolved now into, and then that's why I became such a great media coach. I was always doing coaching and teaching, as you know, Rob, why I had my management company. I mean, I coach people like, everybody under the sun, Michelle Buteau, like, Eric Andre, CeeLo Green, Alex Rodriguez, P. Diddy. Let's not judge me for P. Diddy and coaching him. That was before the freak-offs. But
you didn't coach him into those?
No, but I did coach him in his bathroom before the Academy Awards. I kid you not. Like, they were like, come up to his room up there, and I go into this bathroom, which in his defense was like the size of a living room, right? Like, and we ended up having I hope people don't hate me, but he was lovely to me. We ended up drinking some of his De Leon tequila. He had a girl in the bathtub, so I didn't feel any kind of way. Like, I'm also a tough girl. Like, I knew I could get myself out of that situation, but no, it was fine. He was great. He was one of my later.
What would you coach someone like for that? Like in that instance?
Well, that's it. He was doing the Oscars. He was going to introduce like the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. And so he was like, look, it's live. I just kind of want to go over. And, the first thing I said to him when I walked into his bathroom, he had like his little like script on the mirror tape. I said, get rid of that, because when you're doing live TV, Sean, I go, I can't call you Diddy. I just can't do it. I'm going to have to call you Sean. Right. Like, I can't say, Diddy, what do you think? No. So I ripped down the script, and I said, when you do live TV, anything can happen. You can walk out and a light can fall, and you can't be like, well, here's my script. But funny enough, that was the year Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. And Diddy had to come out after that. So literally he called me, his assistant called me the next day after he did it, because I trained him so well to be like in the moment, to use everything. You're introducing, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, like, what do you need? They're all in front of you, right? Like, and so
if he would have had that script, he'd have been in big trouble.
He would have been in big trouble. So after the whole slap and everything, I was like, he goes, thank God you prepared me for live TV by giving me that analogy. Like, a light can fall and you have to be like, whoa, only in Hollywood can a light hit you in the head. Like, you know what I mean? And the show must go on. You keep moving. It's live TV. So,
Chris Rock should have used your services too that day.
Yes, he should have. Yes.
Everybody, welcome to Postworthy with Marki Costello. This is the only place you're going to hear these stories. Marki, hold on. I got to interrupt you. Hold on. So we are in a whole nother era right now. And this is great what you're sharing, right? And so now we're in this and Paul and I were talking about this, and I think a lot about it. Like, everybody's a content creator now. And you went from like 2 people who were, quote, alt reality TV people. Now it's everything. Everyone's an influencer. Everyone wants followers. The truth is, right, Marki, in your mind, what actually defines what we'll say? Again, you can play the algorithm and succeed for 15 minutes or 6 months or whatever, but what truly cuts through the bullshit and is what matters? Is it authenticity? Is it being human? I mean, I know some of these answers. You and I talk about this, but for anybody watching this who's going, well, I want. It's we're now. It's everybody's in. It's like a swimming pool and everybody's peeing all at the same time.
We're in a trust. We are literally in a trust creator form, meaning influencers and creators are 2 different things, right? Like, so basically an influencer borrows attention, where a content creator is creating that content, right? And owning that, like, to be like, okay, I can create that content, but I can also launch a book, a podcast, right?
Right.
Where if I'm an influencer, people love my lifestyle, so I'm off to Greece and they'll buy the handbag and they'll buy the makeup because they're buying a brand is paying me a lot of money because I have 500,000 followers and I can influence them to buy that bag and that makeup. A content creator, completely different, right? Like, but where we are, because we're exhausted from scrolling and having so much content and people and everything coming at us and trying to sell us something. Like, spend 10 minutes scrolling on TikTok. I mean, I'm sold creatine, the vitamin, by 80 different people, 70,000 different ways, right? Like, and so it's about trust now. Who do I trust? Like, I subscribe to their calling because I relate to them being a single mom or having 2 kids or like going through a divorce or, right? Like you want to trust now. Right. Versus you don't want people like, I think we're exhausted with, look at me in Italy. If I see another person in Italy, I think I will lose my mind. Those morons walking up the stairs in Positano. It's like, haven't you ever scrolled to see that? Like, that's the worst thing you could possibly bring all that luggage to Positano. But I digress. So I feel like it's about trust and being authentic. I think when we say like, hey, I fucked up. Hey, like I just went through a horrible divorce and I wanted to commit suicide, but I got out of it. Like, we are in a place where the world is so crazy and cuckoo, right? Like that we want to really feel that we connect.
Right.
Where before it was like, look at their beautiful, it was inspirational. We wanted to have that inspirational, like Range Rover and $80 billion home be Hill's home and all of that stuff. And now it's not about that. Now it's about, no, I need to feel like I can connect. And when I'm coaching people, and I coach big people that have podcasts, people that are, about to sign a huge deal. But when I'm coaching them, I say, it's so important that you be really transparent and authentic. All of the good that you're going through is great, but all of the bad and all of the stuff that you struggle with daily as well needs to come out, right? Like, we have to feel like there's a through line to connection. We want to connect more than ever in real connection.
It's amazing that you make that distinction between influencer and content creator, because in my personal life, I have some really good friends and I use these examples all the time. We've already had both these 2 groups on. But one is a YouTuber. His name's Paul Cafaro. He has 4 million viewers. He's been doing this since he was 16. He has animals. Like, I love him.
I know exactly who he is. Love him. Yeah.
I was just with him an hour ago, and he just put out a children's book for an otter. And he sold 2,800 copies of that book in 7 hours. And it's because of that authenticity and doing the same thing and people knowing him. And it's like, he's got 4 million followers, but he tells me that probably only about 2,500 to 5,000 are just really like into everything he does. And anything he does it the right way. He doesn't take advantage of his audience. And then on the flip side, I have some other friends of mine in the reality TV show space. They had a show called Boise Boys, which was on HGTV. They had a contract for 7 years. The production company was getting $500,000 an episode. They were getting like $10,000 each between him and his partner. They went and got their own production company. Then they were about to do the same thing all over again. They were about to go back to the production company or back to HGTV or A&E. They were going to get maybe 230 to 240 because the numbers have come down. But I said, isn't that the definition of insanity? You guys are doing the same thing over and over again. I said, you've already built up this. At their peak, they had like 2 million people watching their show. And, one of them has 8 kids they've adopted. The other one's a, good family man. And they built up. And I said, if you look at what my friend Paul's doing, why wouldn't you guys do this? And they're like, well, we need the money now. And I said, well, let me figure out what I can do. I want you to put together a group. And now we're doing the premiere of their show on YouTube next week. They put up one video because obviously they couldn't use HGTV's social and stuff. They put up one video about where are they now and went from 300 subscriptions to over 10,000 in less than a week and a half. And I was like, if you build this for yourself, so it's fun for me to listen to you because you've seen both sides and been involved intricately probably in both sides. So what do you think most people should do now? Is there some people that should go the original route?
I love what you're doing because YouTube, you have ownership, right? YouTube is the biggest TV network in the world, people. Like, you know what I mean? It is. It's bigger than TV. YouTube is the biggest. But I'll use this example. All the ESPN guys that just got fired because ESPN just did cuts across the board, right. All these athletes that had their shows on ESPN, when they were talking to them afterwards, they were like, you know what an idiot I've been to not have ownership, to not be doing this show on YouTube, doing a podcast on Spotify with a podcast one or whomever, like, because then I'd have ownership. When ESPN fired me, I have no ownership. They're just like, sorry, no one's watching TV, no one's downloading cable, no one's, so we're slashing our budget. So you're gone. So I think it's really, this is the future. It's having ownership, owning your IP, owning your intellectual property, owning your content, creating your content. And I mean, love or hate Jake and Logan Paul, but in the beginning, they figured this out a long time ago.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, what can we evolve this into? We have commodity with this audience. What can we, even though Prime is like now losing a shit ton of money, his drink, but like, I mean, look what Jake has done with boxing, for the love of God. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I want to say, Marki, that's an interesting angle to come in at. And I refer to them often because they were so early in YouTube. But, remember, Marki, I worked with them, in the middle of this process, right? They were halfway to where they are today, right? It was before the boxing, all that, but it was after they were multimillionaires, when they had their huge place in Calabasas, right? And I came in to coach young artists that they had found. They were trying to do a label, and they had these artists who were genius, but had no ability to talk to, literally couldn't get through an interview. These kids will literally swear at the executives or look the other way. It was fascinating to me, and this was in their house, and they looked so different. They didn't have their beards or anything. And I'll be honest, both Logan and Jake at core, I don't know how they are today, but they were really kind of soft-spoken. I mean, they were tough and a little confident, arrogant, but really soft-spoken. And what I realized about them at the time was, this is 17, whatever, 9 years ago. They were really clear on a vision of what they were trying to do, which was build. They started out having fun, but they were always clear on building a brand, a business. And I think when I look, Marki, at so many people in this space, they want to make money. But wanting to make money, great. You can mimic the latest trend. You've helped people build brands. And I think in this world, it's about building a brand of some kind. If you're not building something, I don't know how you survive in it, right? I mean, you've got to be you have an intentionality to build, right? You can get lucky, right? But I mean, if you're not, I think so many people are like, oh, I want that. It's like, well, who doesn't want a fucking nice car and a beautiful house? What do you want to do? You've built. You're a builder. I think we've lost sight of this as they built.
The influencer and the content creator. So they started out as influencers, but definitely evolved into huge content creators that own their IP, brands, merchandise, But even let's go back to the Kardashians and Keeping Up with the Kardashians. That was taking the old model, a TV show, and having huge success, but being smart enough to go, okay. At first they were like, oh, I'll hawk, under eye lines, panty liners, whatever. They didn't care. Give me 50 grand, 75 grand. But somewhere along the way, they go, okay, that's stupid. No, I need to be hawking what I have a piece of. So, from Kylie Cosmetics to Skims to Chloe's Cloud Popcorn, if you go to to Poosh to Lemmy, all of the Kardashians now have 2 or 3 brands that they own, their IPs. They have intellectual property. They have, and so then they still do the Hulu show once a year. I think it comes out in September, and they have total control. Their EPs, they decide everything that gets cut, everything that makes it in. But once again, it's just sort of the funnel that keeps them relevant to funnel everything else, right?
Right.
That's the same thing. So if you're starting today, let's say you're listening to this today and you're like, hey, I want to start I want to influence kids about, sports, or about being, I'm a 20-year-old sports agent, and I want to day in the life of, walk us through that, like then start to do podcasts, write a book, you know, like meaning, right? Like you really got to build it, but then you have intellectual property that you can parlay into so much more. Then you start a leisure line, clothing, right? Like a t-shirt line that says, you know, D1 or, you know, fuck off or whatever.
So do you find people that come to you nowadays for coaching, what are they coming to coaching for? Do they already have an idea, or is it like you get to guide them into the way you
I could get a call from the NFL Network saying, hey, Tom Brady's going to start doing, you know, stuff for Fox. Can you work with them? I'll get a call from Nike. Hey, can you come and work with our athletes? You know, like we're launching X, Y, and Z, because like Nike starting a network, Chick-fil-A starting a network, all of these big IPs are realizing they need content to go with their brands, right?
You can't just do a commercial anymore. It has to be actual real content.
When's the last time you watched a commercial on TV?
Not on purpose, but not
on purpose, exactly. Because even when I do record something or watch something on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, like I don't get that. I pay more to not get advertised to. And if I do record something because it's like something that I do want to see on television, I'm fast forwarding through those commercials, right? Like, so, but where I do get commercials constantly is when I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. If I'm at the doctor's and I have 20 minutes to spare, I am scrolling. Like, and I met with a business recently and I said to them, they were like, oh, we don't want to do any social media. We hate it. I go, okay, well, that's great. But here's why you're stupid. Then you don't want any more new clients. You're happy with the clients you have here, because any new client that's 18, 19, and 20, this is where they're going to find you, idiot. They don't know from anything else. They just don't know. Right. So clients come to me, oh, hey, I have a podcast. I'm doing press for this. Like Carly Klaus, you know, hey, I'm doing Project Runway. Get me ready for it. Then I'm going to go promote it. Everybody comes to me for different reasons. Lately, it's building brands. I got a podcast. I want to get my interviewing chops down. I'm going to be interviewed on this show about my new like I just worked with Gio, who's on that show on Netflix, you know, Selling OC, you know. And so he's launching a podcast because they put the show on hold. He got a nice bit of followers from doing the reality show on Netflix. So he was like, let me parlay that into, now he still sells real estate and he's very good at it and has a big, but it's like now he's starting to build an AI for real estate, doing a podcast called Off Market. So when I was working with Gio for Off Market, I said, here's the thing, Gio. Ultimately, if your podcast is going to be called Off Market, what's off market? Does that mean any subject is not off the table? We're talking about everything. We're, you know what I mean? We're taking it off market. We're talking about all the things that nobody wants to talk about. So, you know, keeping him on point to stay branded, right? Because like I'm so, if everybody decides to do a podcast, but they don't honor what the podcast is about, right, then my 17-year-old son, we launched a podcast called The Jump Podcast, where he interviews high schoolers making the jump to college. What's it like being a senior in D1 school scouting you? What do your parents think? What's it going to be like when you're on NIL and you have so we've had agents on, we've had coaches on, we've had kids on. And I tell him, anytime you can get that hook in the jump, okay, what's it like making the jump? Like, are you scared to make the jump? Like, because that's your branding for your t-shirts, your hats, and everything else that comes, right? Like, so it's so important because we have so much coming at us, so much content. Be memorable, be branded, be specific, be real, and be engaging.
So where did like one of the things too with my friend that does this HTTB, another thing he did, he was I tell people all the time, he graduated, we get to high school, he graduated magna cum laude, I graduated Lordy how come, and we both ended up in the same space. I own businesses. I didn't go to I barely got out of high school, and I failed a lot. But he went to TCU, got all these degrees, was an attorney. He ended up on Trump's Apprentice on one of the episodes. And somebody like me at that time, I'm sitting there going, man, he's a star. Like, it's going to last forever. Right. And that when he got done, because he was sequestered, he made it all the way to the end. And I talked to him, and I had a business. I'm like, listen, I don't know if you'd be interested in me sponsoring you. You know, you probably got all this fame. And he goes, listen, you get 15 minutes of fame. And because I was all the way to the end, about 12 and a half of mine are already gone. And he was right. It went away so quick. But now it's like they built up that following and that authenticity and the numbers behind stuff. I think what Rob said a minute ago is so true. As so many people just want to get in and make money. Like doing this podcast is not something I think I'm going to make a lot of money off of. I want to be able to help people. I want to bring people on and show them, hey, it's not anything in life takes work, and the harder you work, the more success, the luckier you get, all those cliches.
Why you're doing this podcast is brilliant because FYI, people need to come on and promote something so you can have those people come on. You should be having content, both of you, right? Me having content, me going, hey, let me take a picture of this right now and post it on my Instagram, TikTok, Facebook right now. And this is where we're at, right? To be like, hi guys. And then I'll post that later with some fun clips, you know what I mean? Gary Vee said this about podcasting, which I love. He said, you do a podcast because you then have like 3 or 4 of those great sound bites and answers that then you have 3 or 4 pieces of great content for the next week, right? Like, and it's so important because content's everything. Right. It is. I mean, everything is media. Everything is in front of the camera to a certain degree today. Mm-hmm. Everything.
You were one of the first people, and I don't know completely. I devoured as much as your stuff as I could this morning, but I saw, like, were you kind of in the beginning of the reality phase? Was that like your network?
My company cast the very first season of The Bachelor.
I heard you say
that.
And
and like the crazy thing is, like, my mom died when I was 20 very suddenly. She had a brain aneurysm and she worked in game shows and unscripted. And so when she died, like, Chuck Barris said, Marki, come and meet with me. And that was my very first job for Chuck Barris. And he did Dating Game, Newlywed, and Gong Show. And me and Nikki Trebek, Alex Trebek's daughter, who went to Catholic all-girls school together, we would do like cue cards. I was awful at it because as the audience would be loading in to shoot the show, I'd always be like, where are you two from? Oh, you're cute. Well, why don't you do so one day Chuck goes, get her the fuck out of the studio. I want her up with the contestants. I want the contestants to see Marki be the last person they see before they come onto the stage. And that was sort of my foray into, I loved the real people. I loved the unscripted. Like, there was some, I loved scripted too, but there was something about unscripted that just, we aligned, me and unscripted. We found each other, right? Like, and unscripted was very good to me, So
you defined, and you were the first, in the space. You were there again. Remember, we used to call it alternative television, like as if it is it's alternative. It was literally the sidebar. Marki, I was thinking about it. Marki and I, we go so far back, right? And although we didn't even know it,
I was think she goes that far back as you. She can't be that old.
Whatever.
I can't be. I love Paul.
You two can get a hotel room.
You're old, Rob.
You two can get a hotel room later.
I just like
Marki, remember, I was the runner-up to host The Bachelor. You didn't know that at the time.
So you were the first loser, is what you just said.
No, I would never have been Chris. Chris had it. They thought I was too edgy. But Marki,
I helped them cast the host, FYI, after we did the contestants, and the mandate for the host was they wanted someone very boring and bland because they didn't want it to take away from the creative. They wanted it to be about the bachelorettes and the bachelor. And they didn't
but what's her name? It's terrible to forget somebody who died. Remember, she
Andrea
died.
Wong.
No, not Andrea Wong. The woman who died in the car crash, who was the EP of the
Hillary. Telepictures, Anyway, because we had the network, we had the production company.
They were like, whatever. Point is, we go back to the origins of when this all started, and friends of mine like Rick Tejas, who was part of the Surreal Life. We're talking old school reality. All this today, it's the norm. Today, it's not the alternate. Today, the idea that
Today, I tell talent, go on a reality show because it's guaranteed 1 million followers. You go on Love Island, you're guaranteed coming out of that villa. If you make it to the last, 2 weeks of the show, you're going to be guaranteed 1 million followers. But here's the tricky part. Can you keep that 1 million followers, right? Can you keep that engagement, right? And what are you going to keep them with, right? So it goes back to borrowing that, the time with the audience.
Well, that's kind of like
I want to go back to the authenticity point though. So what I was sort of saying is the joke with The Bachelor was I was way too out of the box, right? And Roger Ailes on Fox News was like, Rob's like literally not like hosts. He just kind of does it. Now today, everybody wants to not seem like they're in a box. You see CNN, Fox News, they pretend to be personalities. Like they no longer try to be whatever. They swear, they look like they're having reactions. You taught people a long time ago, be authentic. Now, I feel like we've literally gone full circle. And here's my question, Marki. It's almost like everybody's trying to mimic what everyone else is doing on socials to get views. They're no longer authentic. You can scroll and see 10 people do the exact same thing, literally the same script with the same thing because they're getting views, right? Where are we in the cycle where true authenticity, people who literally bust the fucking box to shreds, are actually going to rise? Because right now you succeed by playing the algorithm, which means you do what everyone else is doing. Where does the truly authentic rise up here?
Well, I think if it's a trend on the algorithm is always going to support those trends. So if it's Sabrina Carpenter, do you want a house tour? I'll take you to you know what I mean? Like, I did that trend on TikTok in my son's podcast studio and got probably the most views ever. So you balance it. Okay, let's do the trends, but now let's go do all of the stuff with X, Y, and Z. I think you have to balance both of them. You got to, everything goes in cycles, as we know. We talk about full circle. My 29-year-old son is casting The Bachelor now, this new season. And it's so funny because he'll be like, they all work from home. They have like one main boss and they all work from home doing their outreach and doing Zoom interviews with possible contestants. And I say to him, and he always like, Mom, when you say back in your day, you sound old. Well, I go back in I kick the ceiling open for all you motherfuckers working at home because I was the first person to say, why can't I do The Bachelor and why can't I do this show for you? Like, why can't I do 2 or 3 shows at the same time? Because the people we don't use for The Bachelor, why don't we have them come over here to your show, right? Like, so less time in starting that engine up from scratch and more money in your pocket, executive producer. And at the beginning, everybody was like, never, we want you in-house and never to do, you can't share or swap files. Now that's all they do. So I always say to Lucas, my oldest, in that regard, I go, everything goes full circle. Everything evolves, right? You take a little bit from what we learned from this and we evolve it and what we're going to do with this constantly. It's evolution. It's the evolution of creativity. Now, where we are now in media is like, we're exhausted. We're fatigued with, we do like the everyday average person that like we see the everyday. I coached a girl the other day, makes 30 grand a month selling on TikTok. Average mom, 2 kids.
You just said this.
Yeah. And now she wants more. And I'm like, well, God, this is amazing. Just keep evolving with your audience, meaning, right? So that you keep, but that trust and that truth that you're making 30K selling, amazing.
So I own I tell people I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I have ADD. So I just have business ADD. And like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about live social selling being the biggest next thing. So I went out and created a new selling platform to try to take care of the creators. I mean, the amount of money that every time you get, Gary says that marketers ruin everything, which is 100% true. Like you get all these creators and, in YouTube, it was a lot easier for them to make money in the beginning. Now, like I just saw YouTube's about to double the amount of all these different analytics and measurables that you have to hit to even get paid at the first time. So we created this whole thing and it's like, I wanted to get your take on live social selling because it's not just selling now, it's entertainment. It's somebody going on that my friends that have this show where they do the housing stuff. I said, you understand how great you're going to do on our platform because I'm going to give these sellers 90 days free. They don't have to do, and then we're going to cut the fees. I said, I don't need to make money off of this. I want these people to actually make money. But I said, you being in construction, do you know how great it's going to be for you to be able to do your show? Like the reason why I actually started the platform and I wanted them to put their show on YouTube is because I have a construction company, commercial roofing. And the traditional way of doing it, I went out and filmed stuff for my roofing company, and they're doing it for their second season. I said, by the time this hits the air, they could be doing roofing with drones and I'm out of business. Like, because you got to start in the fall, you got to do some. I said, if we could, like, they start next week, they'll do 1 episode a month, and then they're doing all these other little shows in between. And I said, can you imagine going to an advertiser and saying, hey, I'm going to have you, like Moen is one of their big people. And they went to Moen and they said, hey, listen, we're going to have you on the show in the first episode, but then the next week we're going to go on the platform and we're going to sell your products right away. I'm like, what? How great is that for traditional advertisers to not only, you know, when you have a show, a TV network show, you get a commercial one time, it's on there and it's done. This thing's in perpetuity forever on YouTube, you know, with the ads and all those kind of things. So what do you think about social selling? Do you think that that's the next big wave like they do?
Absolutely. And I think, Paul, you and I should talk at some point, because you know what would be genius is creating a course where it's just social selling. It's just like the new QVC, like, you know what I mean? And which is now no more. All of those people, right? Like they've all merged into one, QVC and Home Shopping Network, because once again, TikTok, Instagram, and it's taking over, meaning but there's a skill to it. Because once again, like when people are like in their cars and they're like, buy this, I'm like, ew, no, you're just trying to make money. Once again, there's creativity, there's authenticity, there's, you know, I want to trust you. I want to know that you're like not just trying to make a buck, because how many of us have been duped by the TikTok shop? Me, a million times. I mean, I will be like, oh my God, I got to have this. And then it comes and I'm like, okay, not only was it not what it was duped by like some Chinese company. And like, so you get.
I repeat history all the time. Back in the days when they had infomercials, I had closets full of that stuff.
So
now I got a bunch of equipment to fix my back sitting over across the room right now that I probably haven't used from TikTok shop and whatnot. Like you said. So having a course and teaching people how to do it right, how to take care of the, you know, I think it would be amazing.
No, it's a really smart idea. Let me interject something here, Marki. We both know Forbes Riley. I was going to call her Riley Forbes. You made me think of her when you were talking about, and you're both talking about how everyone sells, right? So, Forbes Riley was selling how much shit did she sell on QVC or Home Shopping? She must have sold like $2 billion worth of stuff, right? And now she sells an influencer course on how to do it. But I used to think Forbes Riley was literally like, she just sold. This was before TikTok, right? She just sold, right? I always struggled with that. And I feel like we're in an economy, in a marketplace where everybody has to be selling something, right? And you know Forbes, right? You guys go back a while,
of course, right? I know Forbes. She wanted to be me, like meaning like what I built.
To be me. I know. Yeah. Listen, it's a hard thing to want to be you. Paul wants to be me, but he can't. You know, it's tough.
You know what? I was gonna say that, but you beat me to it. I've always wanted to be like Rob.
But
Rob was at my house 3 weeks ago, and all he did was go to the beach the whole time.
I know, that lazy son of a bitch.
but you know what? Here's my point. I don't think everybody wants to sell. And are we in a world? Hold on. Are we in a world where
I would not buy. You do not have that selling gene.
I do not have the selling gene. I don't have the selling gene. Paul
I
can
have
sell.
The selling gene. Yeah.
Yes, you can sell. Marki, you could sell me.
Glasses. Yeah.
You've sold me horrible shit. You've sold me on ideas, whatever.
Okay, when I sold, I sold my house in the Palisades and I had a condo in the Wilshire corridor in Beverly Hills. And when I sold my condo in the Wilshire corridor, I hired a realtor who just got her license 2 days before. I had her come to my place and I said, I'm going to sell it, but it's going to be under your name because I don't have a real estate license. But I'm going to do the showings. I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk the people through. I sold that shit in 8 fucking days and made a record in that building, because once again, who better to sell it? I lifted it. I knew the valet parkers bring your car, your packages come to your door. I would make cookies before people would come and see it. Like I would sell from a place like, hey, I had Jennifer Aniston assistant come and look at it yesterday. Jen might buy this for her assistant. It's such a great building. 2 days later, they're making offers. Like if you know how to sell, you know how to sell. Rob, I love you. And I'm going to say this from the bottom of my heart. I'm not buying shit from you. You're not a salesman.
I'm not.
Now maybe
you know what?
No, but this is an important distinction. Hold on. This is what I'm getting at. You wouldn't buy shit from me. I couldn't sell you anything. But what I have, and I've always had, is enormous credibility with the truth. So people will listen to me. The fucking president of the United States, Bill Clinton, listened to me.
Absolutely.
People will listen to me
Well,
because I'm credible.
That's a great example of the truth, but go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
but
no,
give Bill Clinton props. All presidents
Just kidding.
lie. But my point is, Marki, this is the distinction. There are people who can sell, and there are people who can be so authentic that you will trust them. You will trust what they tell you to be true. Like they're not trying to sell me something. They actually are speaking.
Can I tell you, I think some of the
those
best
are two
salespeople on
separate
earth
camps right now.
don't try to sell. They never, and
That
guess
could be
what?
superpower.
They never get paid for it because they don't
Right.
realize they're selling. They're out. There's
Right.
some people that are the best promote. My mom is one of the best promoters on the face of the earth, but she's an old Southern, I can't call her old. She is old, but an old Southern Baptist missionary. But when she talks about something, people will go buy it. She's just
Right.
not going to be that salesperson. She's not going to want to get paid for it.
Right.
As opposed to someone like Marki and I, that I'm like, all right, if I see an opportunity, I'm going to go out and I want to do it authentically. I want to do it the right way, but I want to
Right.
get paid.
Yeah, let me put it this way. Hold on, because we're heading to an AI apocalypse. If we went, no, I'm just saying, you know, if everything went upside down, it was like Fallout, like the TV show. We're in an apocalyptic world. You two would have these little shops in the middle of the fucking desolation where you're selling, you are selling shit, you are making, I can get you to the next thing. I'd be out there walking around preaching the fucking salvation and how we survived the
You'd be
apocalypse.
the guy on Bourbon Street during Mardi Gras with the cross, while the guy, the homeless guy, which would probably be me peeing on your foot.
I say to my 17-year-old all the time, because that generation talks to nobody. He's like, Mom, you have to talk to everybody. I said, honey, I can walk into this market and know every exit. If a shooter came in here, I'd have us the fuck out of here, and I'd probably talk that motherfucker out from shooting everybody. And you know, he would walk out with his tail between his legs and the gun on the counter. That's how confident I am, in the sense where, like, I'm just very good at, like, I can read people super fucking quickly. Like, I can know what's going down real fast. I know this one, that one, boom, boom, boom. You know,
I can't wait till we can date robots, because it'll really decrease my amount of money I spend.
Right.
Rob has seen my dating life. It is not pretty.
It's not.
No.
No, he's gonna get leveraged by every single woman. They're gonna take his money and whatever.
Not the one I have now. She's amazing.
Why are they gonna, I don't believe, Paul, I believe you'll find true love. Why are they going to take Paul's money? I don't believe that.
No, listen, because
they have. I'm not saying the current one will. She's real sweet.
No, she's awesome. But the last one was, Rob met her. I tried to do a podcast for her and set it up.
She was retarded. She's the dumbest woman I've ever met.
I told Rob after a while of meeting her, we got engaged in 3 weeks. So this tells you how smart I am. But the reason my level at that point was, she didn't ask me for a Birkin bag, so she must be the one. And in 3 weeks, so we got engaged. And I told Rob after, he goes, that was dumb. And I go, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Like, being with her was like watching retarded paint dry. And I hate to say that. Nice girl, but not the brightest. But I mean, going back to the business side of things, when you get with someone and they have a big following and you start coaching them, do you look at like their analytics? Like, some people I know are like Mr. Beast. All he looks about is analytics, but he also says, all I do is make good content. Do you ever get them down and look at their numbers?
I just coached for Beast Games. I coached Jeffrey, who won the very first season, and they're using him to be the co-host in this new season that's coming out. So I coached him on how to coexist when Jimmy's doing his thing, and like, this is going on, and like, and I said, what's Jimmy like? You know, what's Mr. Beast like? And he was like, everything's content. Everything is, he's really smart. He's always thinking like 8 steps ahead. Like, you know, once again, like, you know, even when they were doing the show, Amazon would be like, no, we're doing this. And Jimmy would come out and be like, no, I'll give my own money of X, Y, and Z, because I think it's going to make it more compelling. Like, yeah.
So do you think, but when you start coaching someone and you go, okay, do most people already have a following when they come to you, or do some of them just wanting to get that, or they wanting to become a host, or they're wanting to become an influencer or creator? Like, do they already have that and you sit down and look at it, or is it always just about the personality and the things that go?
It's also different. Like sometimes people will come to me. I had a girl like I've been working with the last 8 months, and she was like, I don't know what my brand is. I know this is my calling. I love country music. I love God. I love this. So we came up with this like whole Talk Y'all to Me, a podcast and country music, and it really built. And then all of a sudden I said to her, like, look, I have interest from these 2 big events that want to hire you. And she kind of like got like puttered out, like, because I think she was sort of scared of how fast everything was happening. But I built her from the ground up. Everybody's different. I mean, right. I'll coach Kelly Wursler, who's one of the biggest interior designers. Her Wursler World on Substack does huge. I mean, and then she'll be like, hey, I'm going on this podcast to promote my H&M furniture launch. I want to like hit all of these bullet points. And sometimes with Kelly, I'll be like, Kelly, you got the design down. What we want to know is, how do you manage a 3-year-old and you have 2 older kids and a husband of 30 years? Let's talk about marriage and family and kids and more of the intimate, Kelly, versus the aesthetically beautiful that we see. So everybody's different. Whether it's Mr. He's a football player, Nike comes to me like, hey, we have this guy who plays for the Oregon Ducks. He just lost his mom. He's super depressed. We don't know what to do with them. I'm like, you don't know what to do with them? Fucking let's run with the depression, motherfuckers, because it's real and it's raw and it's relatable. Cover on ESPN, cover every
that on his shirt. Let's run with the depression, motherfuckers.
Yeah, like meaning, so everybody, one size doesn't fit all with me. I just am very good at sort of, my superpower is like kind of getting to like where someone is going to launch off from. I'm like you, ADD with businesses. I'm always like, here's a great idea. Why isn't someone doing this? Why isn't someone doing like,
you are so fucking ADD. It's crazy.
Same thing. My mom died. I went to college for 6 months because my mom died. I was like, there's no parking. I'm out of here. I'm going to the beach. Like meaning, but I built, when I got that first job with Chuck, I was like, well, what can I do? What can I go to the next level? What can I do here? What can I go here? And I was always like, what's next? What can I conquer? Right? Like kicking that ceiling open for every fucking other motherfucker. So
I have a saying that I tell people. I say, listen, I learned a long time ago, if you're not going to be pretty in the face or skinny in the waist, you better be funny and make a lot of money or you're going to be alone. And I chose the last 2. And so, and you pivot. And so one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, it seems like a lot of times when something, you hear people like, oh my God, AI is going to kill every job and la da 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 da. And you heard, I know Gary talks about it too. He talks about when, tractors came along, they were like, oh, the farmers are going to be out of business. Well, there's still farmers around. And is a lot of you don't seem like that person is scared of anything, but were there a lot of people that do what you do or in your industry that like just have frozen and went away because they couldn't pivot?
Absolutely. You got it. Absolutely. And I mean, that's the whole thing. Everything evolves. You've got to evolve. Everything's if you're not moving forward, you're not moving. So you just have to like when that like you got to pivot, you got to move forward. Like, in any kind of like there's so much positivity in a pivot. There's so much fabulosity in that pivot. I tell my son all the time, you lost a game. Well, guess what? You learned so much in the loss and the failure. What did you learn? Like meaning, right? Like, so, I think, the pivot is so powerful. I think evolution is coming and we're not going to stop evolution. The three of us are not going to stop. So I just think I think you have to buckle up and enjoy. And I think I call Chat and Claude my husband. Without AI, like I'm doing a private with someone, I go on Chat or AI, I'm like, come up with it, and then like in 10 seconds, it comes up with like, it's such a great tool. Do I think, like, look, if I'm needing a new roof, am I going to go to a fucking Chat GPT and a fucking robot? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Meaning, when you want to learn something, like when I want to talk to a human half the time. I don't want to talk to a robot or this or that. Like, I think we'll see where it is great and we'll see where it's not great. And I think there'll always be a bit of a
I think if you marry the two, you're great. So like the companies that I build, I do have this roofing company. I was like, all right, like you said, they don't want to talk to just nobody. So what I did is I built an app within ChatGPT, put it into my own AI where somebody can take a picture of a roof. It tells them everything that's wrong. Now I train my salespeople and I go, now you've got this tool. You don't know anything about a roof. Walk in and talk to that business owner, that homeowner and say, hey, this is what the AI took a picture of. This is we'd like to help you. I said it breaks. So if you utilize AI, but you still have that human element, I think it all goes together.
100%. Give me AI in the beginning so I don't have to like over explain myself till I'm, nauseous, but then give me a human to close the deal to make it more real and relatable.
So as we come to an end of this great episode, Marki, you should come back on. We should do part 2. I want to take off from what you guys are both saying. So I agree, but we're only in the state of using AI, the LLM models like the chats, the Claudes, the Geminis. The new version that's moving forward is the agentic. And as AI starts becoming more of us, the truth is, I could, Marki, right now create a show that's you and it's your AI doing the show, and it will sound like you, it will talk like you, it will think like you, because it will look at everything you've ever said, and you've said a lot in fucking on camera, and it will literally mimic Marki. So here's my point. I do think people
fuck like me. Will it say fuck like me?
It will literally say fuck like you. It will hold its finger up.
But it won't know when to always put it in the right place.
No, don't. You
and
guys
won't be able to react.
Wrong. In 5 years, less 2 years, I will be able to make a show for either one of you that is you, and you will be like, did I fucking fall asleep when because I don't remember doing that. Here's my point though. What it can't do is be human. Right. And Marki, one of the things I've always loved about you is that there is something. You can be such a fucking asshole. You can be so difficult. You're a genius, but there is something so fundamentally human about you, in all of you, in your compassion, in your empathy, in your narcissism. There's something so you. Like, there is no other Marki Costello on the planet. Like, you are kind. I believe, and this is a question and a statement, that is what will survive. AI can be a better influencer than 90% of the influencers. It will be what is so human, so real. You will want that. I want to talk to the human Marki. I actually will pay to talk to the human over the AI. And you've been in this business for what, 30 years? I mean, is that where we're at? And do you believe that is what will survive? The total authentic human?
Absolutely. I do. I absolutely think the personalities, the one of a kind, I absolutely think it will thrive and survive in this AI apocalyptic, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But because I don't think you can, no matter what, I don't think you can teach AI the humanity of an individual, right? Like, but I got to take my dad, because I'm a human, my 87-year-old dad, to the doctor who had a stroke. I got to take him to the doctor today because I'm such a good daughter. And but I love doing this podcast, you guys. I love it. I got my picture. Wait. I want you to say really quickly before I go, I want you to say something great on my video. Say bye, Marki.
Bye, Marki. Thank you so much for putting up with Rob and I for the last hour.
Marki, thanks for coming on Postworthy. For anybody watching, you are literally one of a kind. There will never be another Marki Costello, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to be part of it.
Love you guys.
You too.
Love you.
Thanks, Marki. Talk to you soon.
Hook Paul and I up for a chat. Love you.
I will.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.